looks funny. It looks like I have no hair at all because I'm sitting in the black.
Welcome to this is actually, we're kind of recording this in advance today, but this is episode, just kidding. This is episode 25 of the AVG Fantasy Football Podcast, the number one podcast in all podcasts.
In
not
the
just
world.
Not just fantasy football. We're the best at all podcasts. That's the truth. Don't look it up. You know what I mean? Just take it for what, as I say it. How does that saying go? I don't know.
Yeah, don't stat correct us unless it's Andre.
For some reason, people just get mad at Andre in the comments.
Was I right or wrong on that, though?
No, I mean, he was saying the exact same thing as you were saying.
I think he meant like top 4 in general. Like AJ Green, when he's healthy, he was top 4.
Like
general.
you said, he was top 10.
But
He's
I don't know.
no,
some guy
he's
named
top 4.
Sebastian
Well,
Janikowski had your back though, dude.
I mean,
Kick that dude right in the face.
Yeah, dude.
dude,
Yeah,
I was
some
like, I
random
went
guy.
back. I was like, I looked at the stats. I was like, nah, I was right.
Yeah, no, for sure. You were fine on that.
What's his
No,
name? Day Day.
but that was on the YouTube. So if you're on the YouTube leaving comments, make sure you remember to subscribe.
Oh.
Make sure you subscribe while you're there. I actually was looking at some of the analytics on our YouTube page. It's like 90% of our views are actually
They're from Detroit.
it does
They're
seem like
Lion
that.
fan.
Like 90% of our views are from people that are not subscribed. So that being a fact, if you're watching our content, make sure you subscribe. It really helps us out.
Talk less shit.
You know what I mean?
Subscribe
Follow
more.
us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. All that good stuff.
Yeah, if you
To-
subscribe and you talk shit, we'll respond back.
I might even tell you you're right.
If we don't
We'll
talk
still-
shit, we're not responding back.
We'll still be your friend.
Maybe.
So this is episode 25 of the AVG Fantasy Football Podcast. Today we're doing sleepers and busts. We're each one of us, except for me, picked one sleeper and one bust to go over. And yeah, we're just gonna go in depth, give you some stats, facts, and everything you need to know about these guys. Real good stuff. Sleepers are what makes or breaks your draft. You know what I mean? And it's great. It's great to know at least one bust. So maybe if you get one information about one player in this episode, and it sticks with you when you go into your draft, then we succeeded.
Number
as a
one
fantasy
sleeper,
football podcast.
AVG Fantasy. We're the number one sleeper.
Yeah, we are. Yes, 100%.
Love it.
All right, so let's get right into it, baby.
What it do, baby?
All right, hold on.
So Mike's got a little surprise for us over here. He said
Oh yeah.
he's been giggling like a little schoolgirl over there. He's got some new drops or what?
Yeah, I do. So if we get into here, so we're gonna start with. Oh wait. Oh, what a sleeper. So that's my sleeper drop that I came up with. I don't know if you guys like it or not, but that's what I came up with. Sleepers. That's not the good one. That one's the okay one, but
So you're starting off slow. You
Yeah.
didn't want to climax you didn't want to bust too fast.
yeah, exactly.
I see what you did there.
Once we start talking about busts, that'll be something to be excited for. But okay, we can start off with the sleepers. Here we got first Jamison Crowder. Who
All
picked
right,
Was
Jamison
that
Crowder.
Tyler?
So this is my guy right here.
His guy.
Mr. Clam Chowder, the Crowder.
Crowder.
Would you like to drink at the bar? Some Jameson.
I'll take some.
Right there, he's got some powder.
I'll take some Jamison powder.
Nice. Yeah, I picked Jamison Crowder to be my sleeper. I feel like he's not getting a lot of love, for what he did last year with Adam Gase. And, Sam Darnold wasn't there for the whole year. He had mono. I'm surprised that kid hasn't got coronavirus. Seeing how he was sick. Maybe it was coronavirus he got. They just called it mono.
Dude, he's immune. He's immune to it.
Anyways, so Jamison Crowder last year finishes as the wide receiver 31 in half-point PPR, finished as the wide receiver 26 in full-point PPR. So, there's a serviceable guy where you could throw in as your wide receiver 2 maybe or wide receiver 3 flex guy each and every week, it seems like. But right now he's currently being drafted outside of the top 40 wide receivers in both half-point and full-point PPR, and I just don't understand why. One thing we've kind of noticed with Adam Gase, the 4 years with him being a head coach, we've kind of noticed that he likes to lean on the slot wide receiver a lot. In 2016, Landry led the team in targets for the Dolphins, 131 targets. 2017, Landry led the team again with 161 targets. Landry known predominantly to be a slot guy. 2018 with the Dolphins, Landry leaves. He goes to the Browns. The numbers there for the receivers were kind of it's kind of skewed because kind of like a wide receiver carousel. A lot of different receivers there. You had Albert Wilson, Jakeem Grant, Devontae Parker, Kenny Stills. A lot of those receivers were getting hurt too. So that year was kind of weird in terms of like targets for the slot. But then 2019, Gase leaves the Dolphins, goes to the Jets. Crowder, who predominantly lines up in the slot right there, he actually ran the 7th most slot routes in the entire NFL. Led the Jets with 122 targets. So, I mean, we're just learning that, like, Gase, he kind of likes to lean on the slot in his offense. And Jamison Crowder, his 24.7% target share, ranked 13th among wide receivers. So, I mean, here's a guy who's, he's being heavily utilized and targeted in the offense. And I'm always, looking at players where, I mean, it's a passing league nowadays. They're kind of, going to, abandoning the run in a sense, and you're seeing these teams just really air it out. So I'm always looking for players on teams like how is the ball going to move through the air? Who's going to see a big chunk of those passing yards? And like right here, I said 24.7% of the target share went to Jamison Crowder. I mean, you got Robbie Anderson's no longer there. He's in Carolina with the Panthers. They go out and they get Denzel Mims, who I'm pretty high on. Kind of reminds me of a guy like Devontae Parker. But, yeah, so you got Denzel Mims there. They go out and they sign Brashard Perryman. I mean, but we kind of talked about it off air or even on the podcast a couple times. I mean, we're not really sure what's going to happen with these training camps and even these incoming rookies. You're not getting the rookie, mini camps, these like OTAs and whatnot. So it's going to be hard for a guy like Perryman or Denzel Mims, to come in and get acclimated right away when you have a guy like Jamison Crowder who's already been in the offense. He already knows the system. He already knows what to expect. And, that could be Sam Darnold's kind of safety blanket in a sense. So, yeah, I really like Jamison Crowder. Just some more numbers on him right here. 19th most targets in the NFL last year, and he had 88 slot targets. That was tied 3rd most with Tyler Boyd, behind only Cooper Kupp and Julian Edelman. And then he was utilizing the red zone, 16 red zone targets. That was actually 13th most as well, tied with guys like Julio Jones, Kenny Golladay, and my boy Devontae Parker. So, say less. I do like me some Jamison Crowder. Like I said, he's going. I mean, it's kind of hard right now. You go on Fantasy Football Calculator, and like the ADPs are all over the place. I was looking at Fantasy Pros just to kind of see where they have him ranked.
Theirs is a little better. I feel like it's a little bit more accurate.
Yeah, I couldn't really find a definitive answer of where he's being drafted at, but he is going outside of the top 40 wide receivers, like I said. And for a guy who's going outside of the top 40, who could give you, top 25, top 30 upside, I mean, I just think, he's being slept on.
Yeah, wide receiver 49 on Fantasy Pros, 176 in like Yahoo specific leagues. So that's even later. That's probably like almost undrafted. I like it.
Crazy.
Yeah, so that's pretty late.
He's reliable too. I mean, he's like you said, he's sneaky, like a sleeper.
Only 27 years old, and he was graded on Pro Football Focus as the highest graded receiver on the Jets. So, like I said, I mean, you're getting guys like Perryman coming in. Obviously, he's probably going to be utilized in the offense, but he's still got to learn the playbook.
For sure.
Denzel Mims, he's sometimes these rookies, they come in and they take a little time to groom. Not everyone's Odell Beckham or Mike Evans and can just instantly come right in. And
I think Anthony really hammers that in a lot, is about how wide receivers have like less of an impact right away than running backs.
So, there's definitely very rare scenarios where that does happen, but for the most part, it's not till the second half of the season, if not year 2 or 3. It's not an instant impact.
Which is what Tyler's saying right here with Denzel Mims not being able to come in and really blow it up.
No, for sure. And that's why, from that standpoint, I like to look at like production. If you're productive for 3 years, it makes me like you more as a rookie receiver, though. Like, immediate production is always good, especially like at a young age. But I mean, Jamison Crowder he's been like a sleeper since he was with the Redskins. Like he gets the targets, like you said. For where he's getting drafted, he's the most targeted receiver by far in that area. So
what you guys are saying is
it was not a flub.
It's not a flub.
Not a flub, no.
Dumbass.
I mean, like you said, like he's going. I mean, realistically past the 10th round, but a guy who got the 19th most targets. I mean, I'll sign me up every day, all day.
All
you know
day,
what I'm saying?
for sure.
He's one of those guys where I know Anthony touches on it too a lot, where it's like, okay, maybe his ADP is like in the 12th round, but it's like you reach up into like the 10th round or the 9th round just to grab him because like your grade personally is a little bit higher on him, and it's like where are you going to get that kind of value at in like the 9th, 10th, 11th round in a sense. So
yeah, I say specifically in a PPR league, he's someone I'm going to be. I'll target a lot higher. Standard, I might go more towards ADP in standard just due to he's had a long history of not having a high touchdown total.
Yeah.
So I would gear like in PPR, like you said, I definitely think week in and week out consistency for sure.
No, yeah, he can get you 70 catches for, 900, 800 and something yards, and then hope the touchdowns come. I mean, for where you're getting him, that's solid for sure. Looks like we're gonna have a battle. See who drafts him.
All right, you guys ready to move on to the next guy or what?
Sure. Okay.
I threw
drops.
I threw that drop in there because you were really, really hyping up this next guy right here, Will Fuller. Yeah,
Man, my guy. Yeah,
you were off air. You were really hyping him up.
I'm hyping. All right, I'll start with the bad, or with the what the naysayers would come with first. So 64 possible games. He's only played in 65% of them, so 42 games. So I mean, he has missed a lot, and like what we say, best ability, availability. But when my man's does play,
he said, but
he is a beast. So in the 42 games, here's another bad stat before I go in. In the 42 games that he's played, he's scored under 6 fantasy points in 20 of them. So it's 50%, but my man is not one of those like target monsters. He's extremely productive when he does play. And on top of that, I went to go look as far as like, does he line up only outside because he's a speed guy? He ran a 4.3 240, which I looked up on PFF. 2018, he lined up in the slot 26.9% of the time, which is pretty high. 2019, he lined up 21.7% of the time in the slot. So he's a matchup problem. You can line him up really anywhere. Usually you think he's just on the outside, but you put him up the seams and he's going to burn anybody for sure.
Yeah.
On top of that, I went to look at Deshaun Watson because his numbers are always inflated when he plays. He attempts a deep pass, which is 15 or more yards, 14% of the time, which was last year, which was 5th highest in the NFL. When Will Fuller's on the field, he attempts it 17% of the time. And when Will Fuller is not on the field, only 11%, which makes sense. 14 is a pretty good average. Obviously, it's right in between. But so when Fuller's there, he does push it down the field more. So I went deeper and I looked. When Will Fuller is on the field, his Deshaun Watson's deep throw completion percentage is 43.2. When Will Fuller is not on the field, it drops down to 34.3, which is pretty big, 10%. That's a big drop. So he does look for him. So I think the chemistry between him and Deshaun Watson is big. You can tell when he's on the field, he finds him like a good amount of time. I mean, you can tell by those numbers. Another thing, I'm a big like yards per route run, yards per catch. His average target distance, 2018, he played 7 games. It was 15.1, which was 14th in the NFL amongst wide receivers. 2019, it was 14.8, which was 12th in 11 games. So even when he does play, he's getting targeted deep downfield. So you're not getting like these like Derrick Carr type of like, pity pat type of passes. His yards per catch for his career average is 14.4, which is fucking pretty high. I mean, I'll take that. From 2016 on, 13.5, 15.1, 15.7, and then it dropped to 13.6. But now he's a number 1 receiver, so he's going to have a lot more plays designed for him. But this was the craziest set that I saw. In his entire career, he's only been targeted double digits 4 times in 42 games. And in those 4 games, he averages 7.7 catches, 141 yards, and 1.2 touchdowns. That's exact for double digits, just 10. In those 4 games, he got 5 catches, 107 and a touchdown, 5 catches, 101 and a touchdown, 7 catches for 140, and then the monster, 14 for 217 and 3 touchdowns. So he does have 20 points under 6, but if you just pepper him with targets, which he should be getting with the Texans, 4 double digits, and he's averaging he's going to win you a game with those numbers. 7 for 141 and a touchdown. What is that? 23 points.
Well, so you're basically saying with the absence of
DeAndre Hopkins,
you're hoping that Will Fuller's will get those double-digit targets type of games.
Well, yeah, for sure.
That's interesting. I like that. 'Cause
And
you haven't seen him in Houston without
without D-Hop,
Hopkins,
yeah. And you can see the chemistry that they do have. So he has, like I said, 20 of under 6, but he also has 10 games of more than 17 points, and I want to say 6 of those are more than 20. So he's one of those like big play guys, but if you just give him the targets, he's one of those guys who could probably be more of a standard scoring guy because the deep ball, like the catches, but if you just give him the targets, I mean, the numbers don't lie. I mean, he's there all the way around, all the way across the board.
Listen, people need standard sleepers. All right.
I mean, both. I mean,
for sure.
Yeah, no, he kills it, and I was looking for everything. His career, like I said, 14.4 for yards per catch for career is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think the biggest knock on him is his ability to just stay on the field. Because I feel like when he's on the field, he's pretty good. Like you said, him and Watson have a connection where even with the limited amount of targets, it's like he seems to find him in the end zone for at least that one big chunk play.
For sure.
So if he can stay on the field, I like it. I know they did go out and they get Brandon Cooks. I think people are kind of sleeping on Brandon Cooks because he had a down year last year, but I mean, just having a guy like Brandon Cooks on the field actually probably helps Will Fuller because that's just another weapon that the defense has to take into account for.
And it's another burner too. So it should. I mean, David Johnson being there. I'm curious, but if he's healthy, I think he could outplay. He's the number 87. That's his ADP is 87 right now. So I mean, where he's going to be going in drafts, especially because people forget about him because he's been hurt.
Yeah.
You know, he's played 18 games in 2 years. So should be interesting. But if he's healthy, I feel like he's one of those guys who can win you weeks for sure. I know, T, you're saying how the 45-point week you lost in every league, but that's just bad luck.
No, he beat me single because of that.
It's bad luck, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. I just like the talent for sure. Just get him the targets and let him stay healthy, and I think he'll be all right.
Let me tell you, those stats.
Hansel, so hot right now.
So hot. Those are some hot stats.
I'm about to
Am I
draft
going
him,
out
dude.
of control with this
Dude,
with
you
the
got
new soundboard?
dude,
or what?
Dude,
with the
excited
drops,
over there.
Dude,
This-
don't
low-key-
short yourself.
Low key, this app is actually this. I don't know why I didn't use this whole time.
Yeah. It definitely is like he's been boom or bust. Just real quick, he's been boom or bust, but you might get more
Boom.
not even necessarily more booms, just more like baby booms. Where it's in between still.
Okay,
It's not like
yeah.
complete bust. Because of DeAndre Hopkins' absence. Maybe it's just like he still has some games that are, maybe instead of 2 points, one catch, 7 yard, whatever. It's more of like he still goes 4 for 47. So
Yeah.
it's still decent.
For sure.
I feel like you might see more of that, but he's still going to be up and down. It's the style of receiver he is where he is kind of boom or bust. But I said at least that floor will be raised without DeAndre Hopkins there. And if Brandon Cooks goes down, you got to assume that floor even raises even more because Cooks on the if he can stay healthy as well. Cooks hasn't
both those
exactly
guys.
been healthy as well as of late, and he's like one cushion away from not good.
Yeah, their whole model of consistency for
Simple Jack.
receivers isn't great for sure. For sure.
I mean, what you can say is like if there's one guy that Deshaun's probably going to trust or has the best rapport with out of the trio receivers of Cooks, Will Fuller, and Kenny Stills, you would have to agree that it's Will Fuller.
Yeah,
That's probably his go-to guy, I would assume. Maybe like a 1A, 1B scenario instead of like back in last year or in previous years, D-Hop was the 1 and Will Fuller was the 2. I think now you can maybe argue it's like a 1A, 1B scenario now.
for sure. And like the one that got me was that the 10% drop off because I mean it's true. Will Fuller stretches a field, but it's and not only that, the 16 targets for 14 catches. I was like, damn, like they got something there. That's just not a like a coincidence. But you can see it when he plays. It's just dude has to play.
Yeah.
He's just got to stay on the field. So, but that's someone I'll be looking to get. I think he'll obviously with the injuries, but if he can even if he stays healthy for the first 10 games, you could sell him high. He's one of those players you can do just so much with.
You could pull a Deshaun Jackson on him, which also should be a honorable mention sleeper.
Super duper sleeper.
Where it's like if he has those like first few weeks where he's like 150 and a touchdown, then goes out another week 130 and 2 touchdowns. Like I know I've seen you do that personally with Deshaun Jackson. You can go out and flip him and get someone, or
For sure.
package him with someone else.
Jameis Winston's out there was slanging that thing. No, and for dynasty leagues, he's only 26 years old too, and on top of that, he's one of those guys who might not get re-signed with the Texans. He's coming into the 5th year of his rookie contract, so for dynasty purposes, I mean, keep an eye out on him. You never know. You can buy him low right now, because I mean, if he gets hurt again, what would make the Texans inclined to sign him again? You know.
Yeah.
So he could be looking to go elsewhere next year and maybe find a better spot. But for now, I mean, the talent's there. Just hopefully he can stay on the field. But no one's catching him. I mean, dude's got world-class speed. Burners. He's a 6-footer too. He's not tiny.
Yeah, and he's got that Robbie Anderson neck too.
He's got that. Yeah. So hopefully the chemistry's there.
Which means he's a good receiver.
So hopefully he can play. We should do what, over under 12 games? Is that crazy?
If he plays 13,
I'm gonna go under.
I mean, I feel like you'd be happy with that.
Yeah, for sure.
If you get 13 out of him.
Man, hopefully it's not. He doesn't sit out weeks 13, 14, 15. But yeah, we can do it.
I like it.
I like it.
That's my sleeper.
All right, let's move on to the next one here. We got Anthony's boy.
Preston Williams.
Press-
Deep sleeper.
Yeah, this is deep, dude. This
I
is
wanna
like
hear this. I have
is
him,
like-
so
I don't know if you guys
This is
know.
like REM sleep.
I don't know if you
right?
guys know this, but they recently scientists discovered an ocean underneath the crust of the earth. And there's they think there might be weird alien-like creatures in there. Preston Williams lives there, dude. That's
I
how
was gonna
deep.
say, is this
That's
real?
how deep into this.
Are they asleep
world.
down there?
Yeah. No, really though. They actually did find that, but that's a
Oh, really?
That's a different podcast.
Okay. Got
Yeah,
it.
well, I mean, forgive me if I'm not well spoken on this episode. I've been working, and I literally just ran into the podcast room.
Walked in.
Walked into the podcast room, or ran, maybe.
He ran. He looks good.
Yeah,
So yeah, Preston Williams. I mean, he did have the ACL tear last season. I've been reading reports. He's on schedule for week 1. This would obviously, my sleeper would change if something happens and he has a setback and he's not ready for week 1 and something happens with that. So I'm saying that with this instead. He's going in they said we're using the ADP calculator. Wide receiver 57, so that's the 13th round. Last year in the 8 weeks he played, he was wide receiver 36 in PPR formats. Do you want to know who led the Dolphins in targets in the first 8 weeks?
Preston Williams.
Oh, Preston Williams. That was ahead of Devontae Parker. That was ahead of Mike Gesicki. 60 targets, and he was actually still 8 targets ahead of Devontae Parker. You know who was throwing him the ball in that time?
Fitzpatrick.
The
Well, kind of,
quarterback.
but the other one that was
Fuck it.
that was terrible.
The Rosen one.
The Rosen one. So most of these
Forgot
targets are
about
actually
him.
Rosen targets. And he still had a pro ref. I got to cut these in half, but it was 60 targets for 32 receptions and 400 and whatever half of 856 yards is. And 3 touchdowns.
428.
Yeah, 428. So you pace that out. That was 120 targets, 64 receptions, 856 yards, 6 touchdowns. And like I said, most of that came from the Rosen one.
Who's worse?
Who was worse? Yeah. So now there is this narrative that Mike Gesicki is going to be the number 2. He's going to play the Eric Decker role, and I kind of want to say Eric Decker was a really good receiver in the NFL, and I think we can all agree with that.
His wife was bad.
You know, who's not even that good of a yeah, his wife was pretty
Sorry.
bad. You know what? To this point,
hasn't.
hasn't even been that good of a receiving tight end, Mike Gesicki. So what I'm looking at is I think Preston Williams is going to be the number 2. And you look at Changaley's offense, it favored the wide receivers. Ryan Fitzpatrick favored the wide receivers. The Dolphins are like the first team I've kind of been breaking down, and I actually see Preston getting about 100 to 120 targets. So with like wide receiver 57, I just think you're getting extreme value at it.
No, yeah. 13th round? Yeah.
I will say that Anthony is very good at getting receivers in like the late rounds, and actually I think you're pretty good at finding some sleepers. Maybe it's a luck thing.
Maybe it's a crust thing.
That's a what?
I go under the crust of the earth.
Yeah, that's what it is. Right, you got the
went
biggest
deep,
shovel.
He went deeper on you.
You got the
right there.
biggest shovel in the world. You're just digging down. It's so deep. So you have so much more strength than everybody else.
I mean, think about it. We talked about Preston Williams last year as like a rookie sleeper.
Yeah,
you know?
you brought him up, Dre, before
Undrafted.
he even got drafted. A guy to keep an eye on. You know, he goes undrafted because he had some off the field issues. But I mean, a guy where people are saying he could have went like in the first couple rounds of the draft. You know,
100%.
talent wise.
Yeah, there was like some attitude issues, I guess, or character issues, and then some off-field issues.
Yeah, they said he got a domestic at Colorado State, but he actually got cleared from it, so he actually didn't. And they said he's like a really good kid, so that's why it's like that girl really did him dirty with that. That's fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, he is penciled into the wide receiver 2 on this team. So it's like he's going to be the outside receiver. Like I said, I get where people are using the Eric Decker role and stuff like that, but Mike Gesicki is not going to be on 2 wide receiver sets on the outside. They actually even have Albert Wilson penciled in the slot already. So if we're assuming that Mike Gesicki was going to play some type of Eric Decker role, I actually just don't even think that's going to happen. I think he's just going to be the wide receiver 2 on this team. And Fitzpatrick has favored wide receivers more than tight ends. And then you have Gailey's system, who's also favored wide receiver more than tight ends. 100%. And if you're lining 2 of these guys up on the outside, who's more talented as an actual receiver, Preston Williams or Mike Gesicki? Preston Williams. I've watched them both, and Williams does some shit where I'm like, okay, that was legit. But Gesicki's just looked okay so far. Yeah, I'm not saying, don't hear what I'm not saying, because I still think we can get into this later episode. I still think there's a role for Gesicki to be successful as well. But I think when it comes down to it, he's going to be the number 2 target on this team. And you're getting him, like I said, almost basically undraftable in a sense.
Yeah, you're getting him dirt cheap.
Yeah, this is people who know their shit drafting him in like the 14th round, wide receiver 57. When you're in your home leagues, people aren't going to be taking Preston Williams.
No.
So you're going to almost get this guy for free. And I mean, he was outpacing Parker, which I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But could it be a lot closer than we're assuming? Could it be, maybe Parker's a 140 target guy and Preston Williams right behind him at 120, 130? Yeah. That wouldn't be unreasonable. And, I'd like to think that if he played a full 16 with Fitzpatrick in the mix, he would have been close to a 1,000-yard receiver last year.
As a rookie.
As a rookie. And that way he would have, I think, led all rookies at that point.
I think he would have outdone Darius Slayton, because Darius Slayton did his thing, but yeah, I mean, he's got the physicality, he's got the size, he's like a big boy too, like, because sometimes they have to rookies have to grow into it or be strong enough to beat press. Like, he's already ready for it. I mean, he's a big boy and he's an older guy. Yeah, I mean, I don't see him digressing as long as he stays healthy. So he should get you at least 800. Yeah, 800 receiving yards.
I kind of want to see where the 64 receptions, 856, and 6 would have ranked among rookie wide receivers. I'll look that up and I'll bring that back up on another episode, because I can't pull that up that fast.
That's up there. I mean, 6 for rookies. I mean, A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, and Darius Slayton were I
don't even know if Slayton had that many yards. It was close.
Oh, yeah, no. Maybe. I don't know about yards, but touchdowns, he had a couple big games. But yeah, but these guys were drafted. This guy wasn't, so...
Yeah. It's just kind of it's an under, and he tore his ACL. And I pay attention to injuries now, and we've been seeing receivers come back a lot better than running backs. I feel like from ACL tears. I feel like with running backs, I'm always sketched to get them after coming back from an ACL tear. But we've had some receivers come back with ACL tears and be fine going into.
Emmanuel Sanders fucking tore his Achilles and he's balling. So
yeah, that'll be something we could ask Dr. Cucci.
Yeah.
Oh, Dr. Cucci.
Dr. Cucci.
Dr. Cooch.
We actually got to ask him. We got to talk to him more about just.
We'll write down more injuries. We got some
other guys
too.
we could talk about, and just get his opinion on.
Well, it seems
the ACL coming back, injury and stuff like that.
I was gonna say every day it seems like another player gets the coronavirus. Comes down with this.
You're just ready for that. The thing with him is, I guess maybe his size. He's 6'3", a little bigger than Emmanuel Sanders, but
he's 6'5".
Oh, 6'5".
Big.
Oh, so he's a big dude.
Big boy.
So then Emmanuel Sanders is what, 5'10", 5'11".
I mean, I saw him in person. Whatever he is on the field, he's
not
6
right.
foot.
Exactly.
He's under 6
foot.
foot.
I'm not giving him 6 foot. I'm sorry.
I know his chain was
Emmanuel Sanders. You're not getting 6 feet. Maybe 6 feet away. Maybe.
This comes from someone who's 5'8".
5'10".
5'8".
They can't see me standing up on the podcast.
Oh boy! All right, you guys ready for the best drop of your life?
Let me hear it.
All right, ready?
So you got Anthony to put the headphones on.
All right, go ahead.
This better be good.
What a bust! Do you guys think that we can use this drop for every time?
I mean,
what do you think?
Once.
What a bust!
Hey, quick question.
Once we blow up, I don't know if we could use that. It's gonna sound like porn, but until
we can use it
until then, I don't know.
I don't know. It's just
Really, we're over here talking about Dr. Cucci. We can't use that.
Can you imagine if a 13-year-old kid is watching our podcast and he hears his mom walks by and hears Coochie, and then she walks by again and hears that? She's like, "So what are you watching?" And she's like, "Football." Mom, duh.
The mom walks in and
and you hear that sound.
The mom walks in and it's just. What a bust.
Yeah, little Timmy's going to have some explaining to do.
Listen, we can't get monetized right now, so it doesn't matter if we get demonetized. Because
that's what I'm saying. For now, we're good, dude.
We're good. I low-key picturing Mike making that sound to him touching his plants.
Or maybe that's to me knocking on the door and you guys both have your fucking headphones on. And that's all you hear is that. And you pounding on the door.
I don't know if I hyped up that that drop too much, but
No,
I was
that was
excited. I was excited
No,
about
man,
it.
that was.
I'm glad I put the headphones on.
That was good.
Yeah.
Dude.
Okay,
I was like, oh, say
let's
less.
move on.
That's
Let's
such a
say
good-
less about disgusting
Tyler
drops.
Higbee.
All right, so we're
this is
doing
Tyler's-
bust.
So he's
This
not your
is-
boy T?
I like
Tyler.
his name, Tyler.
It's his boy T.
This is not my boy T. You know, when I was trying to find a bust, I was going through a bunch of players, you know, because there are always players that are, you know, that end up being busts. So I was just trying to, you know, find a good player to be a bust. I know we've kind of touched on him a little bit here and there, but I just feel like this is a player that's getting a ton of hype, and you know, he's always in like the top 10 of all these like rankings I see like on Instagram or, you know, any of the websites to go to. He's always in the top 10, and I think the sample size of what he finished last season as is going to have him going drafted way higher than what I personally feel like he's going to finish as. So I just wanted to make him my bust because I think even when we touched on the tight ends, the first thing I wrote on here is it says bust alert.
And that's what it's in caps.
Yeah. So, I mean, just like I said, I know he finished strong weeks 13 through 17. You know, he had 56 targets. You know, it's crazy. You know, what, 4 of those 5 games, I think it was, he had 100-plus yards. So, you know, it's crazy end of the year. You know, and if you picked up Higbee, you know, he probably helped you win, you know, your championship or helped you win a lot of games to get to the playoffs and whatnot. So, but I'm just a very big person on like, yeah, maybe it was a good sample size towards the end, but even just like a name that kind of jumps to my mind is Austin Pettis. That 1 year with the Niners, he kind of finished strong, and then he was being drafted so high that next year, and just, you know, he was nothing, you know. So I get it, the crazy 5-game stretch, good for him. But, you know, in those 5 games, he had 11 or more targets in 4 of the 5 games. And, you know, in those 5 games, 56 targets for Higbee, only 30 for Cooper Kupp. I just can't imagine a scenario where Higbee's going to outpace Cooper Kupp in terms of targets. And even when those, you know, 56 targets, he only had 2 touchdowns. So it's not like he was getting a ton of touchdowns. You're basically banking on all the receptions and all the yardages. You know, just some things here. You know, Anthony kind of taught me this one right here, but the tight end to running back correlation of the targets, you know, obviously you'll have the receiver targets, but it seems like if you have a tight ends and running backs, like, you know, it's one or the other. It's never a happy medium between the both. But in 2017, the running backs had 101 targets. The tight ends only 88 as a group. 2018, 97 for the running backs, 85 for the tight ends in 2018. And then in 2019, only 62 for the running back, so a massive drop-off. Obviously, Gurley wasn't Gurley. And then 157 for the tight end position, pretty much doubled from the previous 2 years combined in a sense. I just can't imagine a scenario where that happens again. Obviously, Brandon Cooks wasn't 100%. Cooper Kupp, for whatever it was, kind of fell off towards the end of the year. I mean, you have Robert Woods there. Maybe Josh Reynolds kind of emerges. I know they go out and get Von Jefferson from Florida, the rookie.
Hate him.
I just think here's a guy where in 63 career games, he's only had over 60 receiving yards 7 times, and 5 of those 7 came in the last 5 games of the year, where he had 56 games under 60 receiving yards. Like, yeah, I get it. He did it for 5 games, but I'm going to take the whole sample size of what he was able to do, and I'm not sold on it. You know, I think he's going as tight end 8 right now, and he was going ahead of guys like Jared Cook, who, I mean, he's in one of the best offenses. He's going ahead of guys like Gronk, who, I mean, maybe Gronk comes in and, you know, that year off, he can really get healthy. He was going ahead of guys like, I don't know, there's a lot of guys. Jonnu Smith, you know, I know, you know, pretty hyped on Jonnu Smith here.
Gesicki.
He was going ahead of like Hayden Smith, Gesicki. Yeah, just going ahead of a lot of these guys. And I was just thinking, like, there's easily like a good 6 to 8 tight ends that I think could finish ahead of him. So he was one of my bust guys right here. I just think he's being way too hyped, blown out of proportion. I think I was telling Mike this too off air one day. Like, it's almost like, okay, like when you're game planning for the Rams, like you're game planning for Cooper Kupp, you're game planning for Robert Woods, you know, Gurley and whatnot. But like, you know, are you really going into the meeting room thinking like, we got to stop Tyler Higbee? You know, so it's almost like, okay, so he just flanks out into the flats, so that's Goff is just dumping it off to him.
I agree with that.
It's almost in a sense, you know, maybe I feel like now teams are gonna maybe pay a little bit more attention to him, and I just think, you know, 5 games. Good for you, but if you couldn't do it for the first 4 years of your career, 5 years of your career, I can't imagine a scenario where now all of a sudden 5 years into your career you're going to be this stud.
So when you hear all these people hyping up Tyler Higbee, do you think to yourself,
Why is everyone so fucking stupid?
Yes.
yeah, I feel you.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
I think you might have mentioned it just now, but I might have missed it. But you were talking about his sample size being so low, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So dumb.
I was like, oh,
Shit, you like that?
I will say, I'm not gonna. Just one thing with just like when you're looking at numbers that go into like a high target volume to low touchdowns, with a 1 year sample size in that's a number where it's just be careful saying that's gonna not happen again with any player, not just with him, because it's like there's always like like if someone has 80 targets and or whatever it is and they get 2 touchdowns or 3, like Robert Woods has like so many targets and had 3 touchdowns, but like he doesn't have a high touchdown total over his career. But if you only see one area with the player, this could be just a rookie wide receiver or just a rookie. I'm just saying in general, just as a stat. When they see X amount of targets and they have a really low touchdown total, that could easily go the opposite way the next year and be 6 touchdowns off of something. So just saying something I'm saying where it's like I know it is a small sample size, but when you're using that number, that stat, just know that with a very like almost like a 1 year sample off of it, that could go the other direction.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I'm not saying with Higbee. I'm saying with just that number in general because
I
it
just
can't
don't
happen.
like a tight end who's the 4th option on the team. I mean, you got to think it's going Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp 1A 1B, and then Cam Akers. I would assume is going to be heavily utilized in offense. One stat I saw with the running backs for the Rams was the 3 years McVay's been there. The running backs had, I want to say it was 14 total touchdowns. Like 19 total touchdowns and 21 total touchdowns. So the running back is heavily utilized in scoring touchdowns. So I just don't think the touchdown upside is very high for Higbee. Like I said, he's the 4th option at best, in my opinion. And like I said, here's a guy who's being drafted in a top 10 tight end. And I think a lot of people are going to latch onto what he did last year. And it's like, all right, good for you, but is that going to carry over into this year? Like, I'm not 100% sure, and I don't think so.
I'm with you. I'll grab a Greg Olsen in one of the later rounds and grab Tyler Higbee somewhere. I don't know what his ADP is, but if he's getting drafted as a top 10 tight end, it has to be pretty high up there.
Yeah, he's top 8. He's going in like the 8th round.
Which, yeah, I mean, that's not terrible, but it's for what you could get like a more potential upside player there. So
I was just saying with that number in general, everything you said was spot on, but I think like Mike Williams' rookie year, was he had a low touchdown total, right? That his rookie year, or was that his sophomore year?
His rookie year.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is you could have looked at Mike Evans and been like, or Michael and been like, oh, look, this dude had 90 targets, but he only scored X amount of touchdowns, but it changes from year to year. So that's what I'm saying with just that stat in general. Like I said, I agree with everything you said on Higbee, but I'm saying if you have a small sample with a 1 year on that, just because that can ping pong the opposite way the year after.
So you're saying just keep in mind.
Keep in mind, yeah.
Keep your eye out.
Yeah.
keep that eye out.
Word.
Yeah, keep that eye out.
Super horny.
Oh, yeah. Higbee, I like him. I forgot you guys gave insight. Nah. I mean, he's like in that middle ground as far as like what you've done for me lately was good, but you want to see more of it. So I'll probably stay away and then just kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, because I still like Gerald Everett. I'm like a Gerald Everett fan still. So, but like I said, they're trying to redo the whole offense. Like, I mean, their O-line is a problem, so maybe they'll run double tight and maybe tight ends get a bunch of targets. I mean, who knows? We'll find out during Hard Knocks. That'll be interesting to see since they're one of the teams, so we'll be able to get a better look as far as the dynamic of their offense, and then
I just
probably
can't
give you
imagine
better
another year where the tight ends as a whole see 150 plus targets and the running backs barely see 60 in a Sean McVay offense where they like to use the running backs out of the backfield. Obviously, they go get Cam Akers, and I think we'll see a lot more of Darrell Henderson being utilized in the passing game a little bit more. So that's just a lot of targets.
This
for
is just a question in general. Do you think McVay is a smart enough coach to utilize weapons when he sees them, or de-utilize them in situations where I bring up Cooper Kupp that he struggles on the outside? And do you think McVay, the 11 personnel, this is kind of almost not necessarily towards Higbee, it's just this offense with him in general. 11 personnel was the thing that got stopped in the Super Bowl, or shut down at least, and then it was struggling to start the year. He made an adjustment, and he went to more 12 personnel. When Gurley was struggling with the knee and all that, he was not afraid to put him to the side and make a move to someone else. So I kind of don't. I think he's a smart coach where I think he's going to utilize Cooper Kupp, Higbee, and even all these players to the best of the ability. What that shakes out to be and how the pie gets just distributed, I don't know, but I kind of lean towards it. I think he's a smart enough coach to use his playmakers. And if Higbee is a playmaker he believes, everything you said should be heard by everybody, because that needs to be known. But I kind of think McVay is a coach where I kind of think he's smart enough to use his players in the right way.
No, I agree 100%. But I think the offense was kind of falling apart last year. Like I said, Brandon Cooks was banged up. Cooper Kupp kind of started off hot, kind of fizzled out. Gurley was, not Gurley. whatever the knee and whatnot. So I think he kind of was, when you're in mid-season, he was making adjustments, and I think that's what worked now. But I think when you have a full off-season, you're preparing for a season without Brandon Cooks. You have Cam Akers in there, which, he should be able to utilize that running back to the full extent like he did a couple years back when Gurley had that crazy year. I just think that, maybe Higbee wasn't the game plan then, and I think he kind of gets phased out. He's not going to be as utilized. I don't think he gets a 100-yard game, not one 100-yard game in the entire season. Well, it also after he just got 4.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, it also depends on if the Rams are good. I mean, if they have the success they had 2 years ago, they're not going to need to pass as much.
Yeah.
So I was saying, I mean, even if they go 37 less targets to the tight ends, that gives you 120 to the tight ends and 100 to the running backs. So I mean, you can find a balance, but it all depends. If the Rams suck, then they might maybe not 157, but they'll pass more. To where if they're winning the game, they're not going to have the need to pass. They'll run the ball more. So, I mean, it all depends on the success of the team also. But yeah, I get what you're saying about the 100-yard games. I mean, if you're winning or even if you're decent, your tight end. I mean, unless they're completely shutting out your wide receivers, because I also read, you're talking about the offense. They said the reason they traded Brandon Cooks was because they have confidence in Josh Reynolds. Like, they just played, it's funny, they just played the Rams-Chiefs game. That was like super high scoring. Josh Reynolds in the first quarter should have had 57, 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 1. But he's good, and he's a big boy, and he's better at
big boy.
He's better with man coverage as far as than Cooper Kupp is being out of the slot. And he's a bigger body, so I mean that's what they said. You're not obviously gonna shit on one of your players, but they said we like Josh Reynolds enough to get rid of Brandon Cooks and feel okay. So Hard Knocks will help a lot though. Watching
for sure. Yeah, I think that Hard Knocks is I think we agreed that the Chargers and the Rams are both 2 good teams.
Very important
to really
teams,
watch.
Yeah,
Hard
there's a
Knocks
lot of
to see kind of how the offense and the schemes and whatnot.
because Keenan Allen is a stud, but it's like
a lot of transitions
You don't know.
happening this year
You
with
don't
those
know.
2 teams. A lot of quarterbacks moving
lot of moving
out,
pieces, a lot of
receivers
moving
going on
pieces.
other teams. A lot to look at, boys. A lot to look at.
that dude Easton Stick or Easton. The backer for the Chargers is a beast.
You know who I want to look at?
I was going to say one thing fast before we move on.
Oh,
Go ahead.
But go ahead, moving on.
No.
To Tyler's point with the running back touchdowns, like I kind of like going off, but staying on the same team is, what were those touchdowns? 21, 16, 18, something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, and that was Todd Gurley. Like he's one of the he's been one of the best red zone backs. For
sure.
I almost actually put Cooper Kupp as my bust, but when I look at Jared Goff, I see the potential for another. He's been 22 touchdowns, 32, 28. I think they potentially could go back to another 30 passing touchdowns because they're not as efficient with Gurley there. Maybe they get 12 rushing touchdowns, but the passing touchdowns go up. So that's somewhere where it's like all the receivers in general, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Higbee, or all those could see a little bit more touchdowns this year through the air. That was just a point I wanted to make with that.
Yeah.
Zing.
You know what point I want to make?
Let me hear
Is
it.
that we're moving on to Sony Michel.
Oh, bro, this will be quick. Let's be
I
quick.
gotta do some numbers to drag it on.
I was going to say,
I'll try, but there ain't much to it, bro.
Sony Michel,
We'll get it cracking.
I hate this guy.
Ready?
Michel.
I just want you to know, last year I traded Sonny Michel for AJ Green, who never fucking played, but I was
Still,
I could have been happier to trade him though.
Yeah, I would have
Still.
been hyped too.
All right, this will be quick. All right, so Sonny Michel, he's going into year 3, right? If you just have any time of your day, whether you're like taking a shit or you just have nothing to do, waiting for food, go look at Sonny Michel's college, like his last year in college at Georgia, and then go look at him now. It's literally a completely different person. Like,
Yeah.
completely. Like, his explosiveness is gone. His burst is gone. His speed is gone. Hell, his fucking vision is gone. It's literally 2 completely different people. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Right? So I go back and I look and I'm like, all right, maybe I'm just a hater. Let me go look at his numbers.
He said, who the fuck is that?
But I was fucking right. So I look, his rookie year, 4.4 yards a carry. Decent, right? Did all right, had 6 touchdowns. Next year, he ran for 19 less yards last year on 38 more carries. Like, how the fuck does that even happen? He got the ball more and ran for less. His yards per carry went from 4.4 to 3.7. Boo-boo. Not only that, he had 7 touchdowns last year. 3 came in 1 game. He had 1 rushing touchdown the last 9 games of the season. And he was only on the field 50% of the snaps one fucking time in 9 games to finish the season and only had 20 catches. I just don't know where you would want him. And he just had foot surgery this offseason. So he had another surgery. I just don't see why you would ever want a dude who got more work, ran for less, was on the field only 50% of the time, half the time. His yards per carry dropped more than half a yard. I mean, he can't catch.
It's like he's leaving you speechless almost.
I literally was trying to find something good. Dude's never ran for 1,000 yards.
It's like you don't even have cup holders.
I don't. Like I said, it's short, dude. I wrote down like X amount of things. I'm like, bruh, what the fuck?
We have
like you said-
shareholders.
Fire up Damian Harris.
Sony Michel doesn't even have cup holders.
I just don't see how you get better from another surgery that said it was only the surgery wasn't necessary. It was only to alleviate pain. So it's like he has like 2 ACL surgeries, and like I said, he's only getting worse. He's still young. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he can find some fountain of youth while he's still youthful. Fuck if I know, but
maybe his foot hurt. Like maybe
My fingers hurt.
and on top of that, he's on a Patriots team where before they were ahead, so his touchdowns, like them running the ball, he is more like game script predicated, I would say. But now when they're behind, it's going to be James White and other people. That's why I like Damian Harris.
So slow.
Damian Harris is he's a better pass catcher than Sony Michel, and he's younger. They didn't use him last year. He's fresh. People forgot about him, and they took him in the 3rd round last year. So it's not like it was like a throwaway pick. 3rd round is still relatively, high equity for a draft pick. So I don't see him getting better. When he ran for 19 less yards on 38 more carries, I don't see how you can do better than that.
I will say there's like a couple teams that I don't like drafting the running backs, and the Patriots is one of them. And I did end up taking Sony Michel on a joint league with actually the Medicine Man. Me and him had a league together. And having Sony Michel on my team, I think you would agree because you made the AJ Green trade, was probably one of the most frustrating things last year in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean,
so it was like, if I'm probably gonna stay away from the Patriots backfield, let alone if anything in PPR leagues, maybe James White. But yeah, I do not. When I saw this come up on the bus list, I was pretty excited.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think I got the worst end of the trade to start because I did trade him after week 4. Week 5, he got 19 points. Week 6, he got 12, and then week 7, he got 22. I was like, but week 7 was against the Jets. You want to hear a stat line? You want to hear his fucking stat line for this game? 19 carries.
I just want to hear a stat
just
line.
fucking listen to this fucking garbage.
15.
This is, you know what? I realized
Just a stat line.
he's like Jordan Howard. This is why I don't like him. He's like Jordan Howard.
Well,
Sorry,
chill,
Jordan
dog. You're
Howard.
talking about a running back now.
Sorry. Ready?
Jordan Howard has the most first downs and touchdowns.
Tell me this isn't a 19,
percentage.
19 carries, 42 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2.2 yards a carry.
Yeah.
And since that game, after that game, he had 1 touchdown, and it was week 17 against the Dolphins, where he had 18 carries for 74 yards.
You know what also, too, is I heard that he sucks eggs.
He sucks.
You remember that, in cartoons as a kid? That was like a threat.
Bro, he had 20 catches.
I don't.
He had 20 catches a whole season. In one game, he had 1 catch for negative 8 yards.
Yeah,
Why
he just offers like 0 receiving upside. So, I mean, I guess if you were going to draft him, maybe a standard league, but even then it's just gross, like you said. Because, I mean, I think James White is probably the running back you're going to want in this offense, especially like Mike touched on in PPR leagues, even half-point PPR leagues. I think, James White's a guy who, he's a center piece of that offense, I feel like.
Well, you saw the stat you sent me. Most first down yards, James White was second in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's a chain mover. You put him in on 3rd down, and he beats a linebacker.
Yeah.
And
And like I said, Sony Michel, I think there's only one player that looked worse running the ball in the entire NFL than Sony Michel. And Anthony, who do you think it was?
it had to have been Kalen Ballage.
Yeah.
Dude, it had to have
Correct.
been Kalen Ballage.
Correct.
Hey,
Dude, he looked clueless.
He wasn't the same player last year.
No,
100%.
I don't know what the fuck he did.
Yeah.
He's been eating too many
And
edibles.
you're on a good offense with Tom Brady and you see guys like LeGarrette Blount. What do you get, like 18 touchdowns that 1 year? So you think if anything, maybe if he's not getting you the
16.
yardage, at least you'd be banking on the touchdown upside that he could get you on this offense. But even like you said, if you take away that 3 touchdown game, the touchdown upside was non-existent
he had
for him.
4.
Yeah.
He looked like he lacked the burst to get those short yardage things.
Yeah.
Is what it was. It's like he would get it and just get stuffed. It was he just didn't look like the same guy.
Yeah, no, him in Georgia, me and my boy Chris, shout out to Chris, we talk about it all the time. Like him and his Georgia highlights, you're like, this dude. I mean, he went in the first round.
Yeah.
Like he looked good, and then ACL surgery, and then
I mean, you're
it's,
just watching him move through the. He can barely like. It's almost like. I wonder if he was
He's, like,
playing with a foot
sluggish.
issue through this because you watch him trying to make a cut move, and it's like, bro, I can make a step and juke to the inside. It was just like.
sure.
And then go down. It was like
You
it was
were
bad.
right.
But I will say for some deep sleeper upside, I mean I'll admit I had Sony Michel in my top like 15 or 16 last year.
Yeah, me too. I was
which
big
was
on him
kind
last
of
year.
But the process with that was right. It was like the carries, the goal line work, the potential red zone, receiving work. So as a deep sleeper, if Damian Harris can come in and take that just literally take that job away as a deep sleeper, you could be looking at someone as a deep sleeper who's 200 carries, maybe gets more. We have essentially somewhat of a new offense with Tom Brady gone. So maybe this is a guy to kind of keep an eye on for the second half of the year. That if Sony Michel is a starter and he struggles, maybe this is someone who can get 15 carries a game, a couple of receptions, and red zone work. So just kind of like a note for like a deep sleeper, like keep an eye out for him because he could. And he was a second round pick for them, I think, too, right?
First round.
Damien Harris.
Damian
Oh,
Harris.
no, third round.
Third
Damian
round.
Harris,
Third round. So not a
I
high
like
investment,
him.
but still an investment. So it's just a
Yeah.
name to know for a deep sleeper. Or if you have a deep bench, maybe take a shot on him. Like if you're an 8-man bench, see what happens week 1 and see what he does.
Yeah, I mean, to
So-
stand corrected, he has 19 career catches. Sonny Michel does for his career.
So,
It's not good.
so can we officially say, what a bust?
Yeah,
Yes.
bro. I just, yeah. I don't see you running for 900 yards again. I mean, last year 247 carries, 912 yards, 3.7 yards a carry. That's
This
not
offense might not be as good. I mean, how many times do you see Tom Brady converting a third down to keep the offense on the field, which, more opportunities to get yardage, more opportunities to score a touchdown. What if Stidham comes in and he's, their third rate conversion percentage isn't as high as it was with Tom Brady.
sure.
That's a less opportunity for a guy who's not actually performing that well when he even touches the ball. So,
And if it's 3rd and 2 or anything above 3rd and 2, he's not even on the field. They're gonna have James White or Damian Harris or Rex Burkhead. They got
One of the white running
They
backs.
got the little homie from JJ. They got the little homie from Arizona, JJ Taylor, little 5'6" guy,
yeah.
The homie.
who is 10 times shiftier than fucking.
Yeah, he
Sonny
texted. He
Michel is.
texted. Yeah, JJ Taylor texted Dre the other day. He's like, "What's up, homie?"
I said, "What's up, little homie?" I'm just saying.
All right, let's move on to the next one, eh?
Yeah,
I think we trashed Sony Michel for long enough, eh? All right.
I went as long as I could.
go on to
Xbox, not Sony.
Yeah, sorry.
What do you like, Spyro? Okay.
Watch me draft him somehow. I'm gonna be pissed.
We're moving on to another one.
Derrick, my boy Derrick.
Oh, I'm gonna get some. I'm gonna get some heat for this.
What a bust.
I'm not big on this dude either.
I'm not
at all. I traded him away in Dynasty because he fucking pisses me off. So I can't wait to hear it.
We're
Fucking
talking
hate him.
about, for audio listeners, we're talking about Derrick Henry here.
Yeah, so Derrick Henry, my computer just froze, so I'm gonna have to try and remember some of the shit I just wrote down. It's relative to draft position. Like last year, I know me and Tyler specifically, maybe Mike too, or Le'Veon Bell was like a first round pick, and we were like, we had him as basically like not a bust, but we're like, I'm not drafting him in the first round. He's closer to like a second round, maybe third round pick for us.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry essentially played at his ceiling last year, and he's being drafted at his ceiling. Last year, 303 carries, 1,540 yards, 16 touchdowns on the ground. That's a lot of touchdowns. And then actually right before this, me and Dre went through we looked at the touchdowns. 6 of his
18.
6 of his 16 touchdowns came from 1 yard or less, and some of them were like 0.1
Half
yards.
a yard. Half a yard.
It was just like boop. So it's just like there's some touchdown regression more than likely coming. Someone who gets 300 carries on a regular basis. I know his touchdowns off head. This is 4 years, one of the best running backs in the league. 15, 12, 7, 6. That's Ezekiel Elliott, who continually gets 300 carries a year. Touchdowns will go back and forth. They will ping pong. A touchdown a game is very, very hard to do. And the Cowboys' offense, you could argue that has been better than the Titans' offense. And I think it will be better than the Titans' offense. So I do see some touchdown regression. Another part of it is a lack of receptions. and lack of receiving yardage. Last year, he had 18 receptions for 206 yards and 2 touchdowns. He scored 2 touchdowns and 18 receptions. He's only had 1 other touchdown in all of that. And that came off of a 75-yard touchdown, one of those. So if you take that 75 yards
on a screen pass.
Yeah, so if you take that away, his receptions numbers are pretty ugly. Now we're just going to a total yardage type of standpoint. Let's just give Derrick Henry 1,500 total yards. So that's like 1,400 on the ground roughly. Give or take a little bit on the receiving, about 100 or so. And let's give him 10 touchdowns. That would have put him last year at the RB 10 to 13 on half point to PPR formats. Now, if you're drafting him as like the RB 4 or 5, which he's probably going to go at 4 because Dalvin Cook's got some question marks.
Sure.
I don't.
Preference.
I don't. Like, he needs to do exactly what he did last year. And let's not forget, they lost their left tackle. What's his name? Conklin. So we don't know what impact that has yet. Maybe a lot of the Titans' runs were on Conklin's side. So we don't know if that's going to take his yards per carry from 5.1 to 4.3. And 400 touches last year. There was a big history with running backs getting 400 touches and having regression last year. And you also even have to worry about if his body can hold up for another year with that many type of touches. So there's just
too many
lot of things need to go right. And I did look at the games where the Titans were losing versus winning, and the carries were a lot lower in games where he was losing. I didn't have enough time to like stat him out, but they were a lot lower when they were losing. And this is a team that I don't think they're guaranteed to be a playoff team. Are they a playoff contender? Yes. But could things go wrong? Could they be more 8-8, 7-9? Yes, it could. And if that happens, Derrick Henry is going to be a bust relative to where you're drafting him. What you need for them to do for him to live up to his ADP is they need to be a good defensive team. They need to be ahead in games. They need to be a winning team, ball control. They need Ryan Tannehill to be good as he. That's a lot of like ifs. They need the line to be just as good as last year. If some of those things go backwards, his numbers are coming backwards. So there's just
here's one half yard. Look.
Oh, that's not even half. That's like a.
That's a fall. That's a Derrick Henry fall into the end zone. He's like, say less.
Like, I'm not saying he's going to be like a bottom like outside the top 24, but I think you need a lot of things to happen for him to be where he's at. And if you're in a PPR format and he gets you, maybe 1 or no receptions on the game and gets you 70 yards and no touchdowns, and that's your top 5 pick. That's a bust game for a top 5 pick when you have these other guys going for like consistently over 10 pretty much. So if he even got something worse, like 7 or 8 touchdowns this year, I mean, he's going to be outside the top 15, and you're not going to be happy you drafted him that high.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, what reminds me of him, and it's probably because it's like PTSD. I think he can have that year. Remember when Gurley balled out, and then he like sucked, and then that next year again he balled out. I don't know if you remember that. Maybe it was like 4 or 5 years ago. Or it was a year after his rookie year. He like came in and he played well, and they're like, he's going to be a beast. And then that next year, he like sucked.
Yeah, Jeff Fisher.
The only reason I remember is because I had the 4th pick and I took him, and he was I benched him in the playoffs for the playoffs. So I feel like that's what he's going to be like. One of those like, because like you said, the touchdown regression, getting 18, like 16. Like look at Kamara. He went from super high to the touchdowns dropped.
Oh god,
like,
if he had Kamara's touchdowns, he'd be
drastic. Just like Aaron Jones. Same thing with Aaron Jones. He's going to fall off too. And like how you're saying, I just think there's too many variables that go into him hitting his ceiling, basically. Like, there's too many things that you need to happen for him to hit a ceiling to justify his draft position, to where it's like all those other running backs like Mixon and Dalvin and Zeke, like you don't need all those variables for them to do well. Like with him, like you said, you need to be winning. You need to make sure your team's good. Like,
the defense needs to be playing and keep them in the...
Like he's game script predicated. Like if they're losing, they're not going to run the ball a lot. They're going to pass. To where with Zeke, if they're losing, they'll still pound the rock. With Saquon, with McCaffrey, they'll find ways to get him the ball. With Derrick Henry, they're not going to pass him the ball and run these angle routes against the linebackers. So he's very much so, like you said, things have to go right a lot of the time for him to hit a ceiling. So that's why I don't like him.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets a 12 or above touchdowns, 12 or more, you'll probably be okay with what you got out of him still. If he gets lower than 12, you're probably going to be disappointed. If he gets lower than 8 total touchdowns, you're going to be pissed.
Yeah,
let's just put it that way, because it's like there is nothing in the receiving game.
Yeah, because it's like, think Joe Mixon, he was on a shitty team and he's still going top 8, top 10 because they were still utilizing him even when they were losing. Like with Derrick Henry, I just don't see them handing the ball to him when they're down or passing him the ball. Like they're going to use Jonnu Smith or A.J. Brown or Corey Davis or whatever else.
And he might even still finish at like RB 8 or 9, let's just say, like or even close to where. But like I said, if the touchdowns come down, because he's going to have some monster games, hands down.
Yeah.
So those numbers could be easily inflated by 150 and 3 touchdown game because it's like, or he has, let's just say he has 2 of those, but you might have 4 times where he loses you a week because he offers nothing in the receiving game and he gets you 65 yards, no touchdowns. And then he has another week where it's, this is your RB1, this is your anchor. You took him with your first pick in the first round.
And he's got to win
and,
you
and he
games.
gets you, let's just say he gets you 3 or 4 games with under 80 yards and no touchdowns. Your team's probably not going to be.
It's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough. You're going to need some. You're going to need your RB2.
You're spending a top 8 pick on him. You know, I don't think he gets past pick 8 in most drafts.
He's
right?
like 6 right now. But like I said, I could see if
Especially in
stuff gets
standard.
closer, he could go ahead of Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
Especially in standard, for
And
sure.
then some people might not even want to take Michael Thomas as the number 1 like wide receiver. They might take Derrick Henry, so he can go as high as 4.
Yeah. And I think if someone were to ask me out of the top 12 ranked running backs, if I had to pick one that wouldn't surprise me, that wouldn't finish, it would be him. Out of like right now, if someone gave me like pro or fantasy football is like pro football focus top 12, I would be like, he's the one that I wouldn't be surprised if he fell off.
Yeah, I feel like when we were talking to the medicine man and he was talking to us about Dalvin Cook, even with us talking about Dalvin Cook's like injury history, I'd much rather have a Dalvin Cook or an Alvin Kamara or any of these guys in the first round. If I'm gonna like reach for those RB1s, I'd rather grab one of those guys than Derrick Henry. I just don't put Derrick Henry in the same. I'm with you guys. I don't know. I feel like we sound like a bunch of Derrick Henry haters, but you said, I do believe you're right, Anthony. Is that you are drafting him at his ceiling. That's what it is.
For sure.
It's like, and you're not going to get. He's not going to do better than Christian McCaffrey.
Like
and as the clown always says, what goes up must come down.
Exactly.
Would you take him or Josh Jacobs?
I love Josh Jacobs this year.
Yeah,
so.
I think I'd still go Josh because Josh Jacobs at least
me
has
too.
an
But I would
unknown.
take Josh Jacobs too.
We could
Can
see
you
40 catches from Josh
Where-
Jacobs. He's not getting 40.
Are you?
No.
Do you think you would be able to swing around and maybe get Josh Jacobs, or he's more of a
It
first
depends.
round
Would you
guy?
take him or Miles Sanders?
I would take
Derrick Henry.
The thing I don't like about Derrick Henry, and I think we touched on it last year,
catching.
is, Anthony, we alluded to, was like, I'd rather be wrong and not have, am I saying that right? I'd rather be wrong and not have him than have him and be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like
sure.
for the first
That's how
couple
I feel about
years,
Odell.
you would see Derrick Henry, he would have like 20 rushes for 60 yards, but then he
Sometimes
would fall
less.
into the end zone. So you'd be like, okay, like he saved me with that
12,
touchdown,
yeah.
For so many games, he would get you like 20 carries, 60 yards, and a touchdown. And you're like, okay, well, at least he fell in the end zone. I'm good. And I didn't want to bank on that this last
Literally,
year or
like,
so.
2
Like,
years.
he finally started turning those 20 carries into 150 yards and a
And
touchdown.
two
Yeah,
touchdowns.
so he's one of those guys where I'm probably not going to have any shares of Derrick Henry, especially with him going and let's just say like he's a top 10 overall pick,
Yeah.
like he's going in there.
At very least.
Yeah, at least.
very
I'm
least.
probably not gonna have a lot of shares of him because I want to make sure my first pick is like, I'm a pretty safe and player. Like I want to make sure my first pick hits. I don't want too many question marks. Like, I know we did the mock draft, and I was talking about Dalvin Cook, and all the question marks we talked on him, and then in the mock draft I took Dalvin Cook, and you were joking around like, oh, you're a man of your word, you took Dalvin Cook, but reevaluating, I was thinking like, I don't think I'm going to touch Dalvin Cook at all because the injury history, talking to the medicine man, and just the holdout and whatnot. So it's like I don't want to gamble that my first round pick busts
out.
or misses or gets hurt. So I'd rather be on the safe side for that. So yeah, I agree with there. I mean, do you think the fact that he's pretty much playing for a contract can factor into anything, or because he's on the franchise tag, so I think he's making 10, 12 million or something like that. So he's looking for that big payday, and if he wants to get
I'm trying to track
15
that.
plus million, then he's gonna have to perform.
I'm trying to track that, but I've seen mixed results where it's like players will play good on a contract year and players will play bad or a subpar. I don't know if there's a correlation to that, but it comes down to, let's just get to the efficiency standpoint, where it was 5.1 yards per carry last year. That's a good yards per carry, and that came on the back of a lot of long runs. If you lose some of those long runs, if he runs for 12,
that right there.
like I said, I was giving him 1,500 yards, which is basically saying he's going to run for about 1,350 to 400. If he only gets 270 carries, let's just say, what's his name? Darrington
Evans.
Let's just say he gets a little bit more involved than Deion Lewis was, and he's more, like I said,
which he should be.
Let's just say he's closer, like I said, 270, and he runs for 4.2 yards per carry. Let's just say the line is struggling a little bit this year because the loss of Coughlin, maybe some other guys are underperforming. That's not 1,300 yards. That's closer to 1,200. And if he gives you about 100 plus on the receiving side, that's 13. I was giving him 1,500 and saying where he would fall in that range with 10 touchdowns. So, it's. Is he trying to do as best he can in a contract year? But to run above 5.1 as an efficiency standpoint and see more than 306 carries, That's pretty hard.
Yeah.
You know, could he get 330 carries? I mean, that's still in the realm of possibility, yes. But
they got to be winning though.
Yeah,
Have to be
they gotta
good.
be
If you're a
winning.
shit team, you're not getting three. If you get 330 carries and you win fucking 5 games, they're not re-signing him after that fucking franchise tag that they put on him.
And they're not
gonna
gonna
run him
u-
till the wheels fall off.
they're not going to use him like they used him in the playoffs. That was more just like because it was a recipe that was working in the playoffs.
They couldn't stop it.
Yeah, they couldn't stop it. So it's not like they're going to go out there and just be like, and I think that's part of the reason maybe he's going as high as he is,
Yeah.
as people saw the playoffs and they're like, dude, he was getting like 25,
Utilized
30.
like a bitch.
He's going to get 450 carries and be like the old school fucking running backs. And like, no, that's not happening.
I mean, is he built like he could? For sure. But yeah, it just, that's the thing. Darrington Evans is like a good mix between him and Deion Lewis. Like, Darrington Evans is a bigger dude who still weighs over 200 pounds. So he's not a Derrick Henry, but he's way bigger than a Deion Lewis. So I think that's going to take away from his 400 touches. Is it going to be substantial? I don't think so. But
And he
is it going to
He
pass
threw for a touchdown.
touchdowns?
So he
I
had
don't-
19 touchdowns.
You know, so
It was the playoffs.
yeah, that shit's
Oh,
wild.
okay. I was like,
So I mean, yeah, he's built. You know, he's a 1-in-1 as far as running backs in the league aren't built like him. Dude's huge, but yeah, it's gonna be predicated on how good the team is, because I could see them being 6-10 easily. Like, they won a lot of close games that put them over the hump, but I mean, like I said, they win 5 or 6 games, he's not gonna finish top 8.
Yeah,
running
and maybe
back, I
some
don't
of
think.
these defensive coordinators, you know, they saw how, you know, in the playoffs especially, they leaned on Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Maybe they, you know, they really focus on like, all right, we're gonna make Tannehill beat us.
Yeah, and then
we're gonna see if
for sure.
Tannehill can
And
drop back
then
30
it's
times a game and beat us. You know,
Tannehill
instead of
time.
throwing
Tanny
20
time.
times a game, you know,
Yeah.
feeding Henry the ball 30 times. So maybe we see something like that, you know, where they're really stacking the box and they're pretty much daring Tannehill to win the game.
Daring.
yeah. But I mean, just like I said, if your first round pick gets you like those 6, 7, 8 point games, and if he does it like 3, 4 times, like he got bailed out by his touchdowns a lot of times the years before, and even last year a few times.
2 years
that
ago.
happens. You're just. So the overall finish could even be deceiving because you're not going to be happy, and you might not even make the playoffs because he hurts you a lot more than he helps you.
Yeah, he's probably the only running back going in the first round
God.
who can't, like, in terms of like total yards, receiving and rushing, where he's like one-sided, you know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
predominantly
he's
the
one,
rushing.
one,
you know?
yeah, one
Where
dimensional.
a lot of these other running backs, I mean, they can get you, you know,
Both.
1,000 plus on the ground, and then, you know,
At
5,
least
6, 700
350.
through the air as well.
And you get those PPR points if you're in a PPR format with the reception. So
Yeah.
Get yourself a James
Yeah,
White.
Kamara, I think I saw something. Kamara's at 80. It's crazy, but he's at 81
Exactly.
receptions 3 straight years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and last year his yards per catch was like low, it was like 5 point something.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, exactly. Derrick Henry probably doesn't have 80 catches for his career.
No, he doesn't.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let alone for a season. So, hey, watch him just come out and be the master route runner this year. Just probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, that's not.
He's looking like a Deion Lewis. Just cuts away. Just cuts away.
So it's official. Derrick Henry. What a bust.
I'm ready for people talking shit on that one. Bring it, bitches. Let's go.
But no, I think it's like
Let's throw them
maybe
verbal hands.
necessarily you're not
Yeah,
saying he's
Day-Day.
a bust, but I think
Uh-huh.
you hit the nail on the head saying like the Le'Veon Bell was a good one. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like Le'Veon Bell was going in the first round last year, and we weren't necessarily saying Le'Veon Bell was going to be terrible, but we just felt like that first round grade was a little too high for our blood. You know, and like I said, we were right on that. You know, he was more of like a third round
Third
type
rounder,
of
for
running
sure.
back in a sense.
Yeah, out of everyone, I could see him being
Yeah, because I think Bell still
Underplaying.
finished. You probably know what RB
17 or 18.
17.
He was
was he that?
he was
So that-
RB2.
He was
a
a
RB2.
decent like mid.
Oh, no, I'm saying his
RB2.
finish wise was like.
Oh,
I'm not sure. I think he at least top 20 still, right?
Yeah.
I want to say like 17 or 16.
So it wasn't like a true bust, but compared to where you picked him at, like it was.
Yeah, you're
it
picking him
was-
to be top 8,
Yeah.
top 10.
Yeah, so it was like, and then Derrick Cheney, he's Chinese now. He was getting.
he finished at
getting-
16.
Okay,
PPR,
yeah.
Le'Veon.
Yeah, and Derrick Henry's getting even drafted higher than him, and that's a realistic possibility where he finishes like 12 to 16, and it's like you're taking him higher, and it's just like, oh well, that
No, this
that
dude.
wasn't fun.
Just, I mean, maybe that's off topic. This dude Le'Veon Bell, the year before he held out, had 106 targets, bro, for 85 catches for 655. That's insane.
Yeah.
it's pretty
106
good.
targets.
Pretty much a receiver.
I miss when
And the year before
I
he had
miss when we
94
had
targets.
The
And then
number one receiver and the number
Welcome
one
to Adam
running back.
Gase.
Bro, and no, wait, he
There's
went.
there's actually a lot of stuff coming out about Adam Gase being like a problem. Nobody likes
he's
him in the locker room.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been known
He's
that.
always
Well,
coked-
I mean,
so he's coked out.
but it's like, but I know, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
We're gonna
chicken
go out
run.
there and
He's like,
Adam
we're
Gase.
gonna blow them right out of here. We're like, it looks
Sorry,
like you
guys.
blew something right out of here already.
I got Corona. It's just that. It's not
Dude.
nothing else.
I will say though, hey, he only had for 78 targets, he had 66 catches for Le'Veon. That's pretty good. Adam Gase is a bum, but
Adam Gase. Yeah.
Chicken run.
dude, this dude
Anything
Le'Veon,
else you guys
oh my
want
God.
to touch on before we finish this guy?
Do you got an honorable mention, Bust Mike? You don't have to give stats, but you have someone you're just like,
Let's see, off the top of my head.
or sleeper. You don't have to give stats, but just who you got.
Bust. I don't know. I don't want to put out too good of information. I'll save it for next episode.
I like that.
That
I
boy.
like that.
But listen, dude. You know who's the bust? You know who's not the bust? Me, for making such a dope
Soundboard.
Oh, what a bust.
I'm gonna go check your plants, make sure they're all right after that.
Jesus, seriously, they're probably growing full fucking sprout right now. And
little
blooming.
leaf, like half leaf, half Michael's.
we'll call them little Judy Bloom.
Start growing mustaches.
That's it. That's all for this episode, guys. Thank you for listening. This has been the AVG Fantasy Football Podcast. Just a couple of AVG boys, you know. We're out here making things happen for you.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you guys listening. I hope this has been helpful to everybody. And yeah, go ahead and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. If you need any type of fantasy football help, we got your back. Just hit us up, DM us, message us on anything, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. We got your back.
And not subscribing, we're gonna show up at your front door.
Yeah,
All
you
four
have.
of us.
If you don't subscribe, then Dre will hurt you. He's gonna hurt you. He's gonna
Jalen hurt you.
He's gonna bust on you.
Whoa, that's maybe not.
Don't sleep on that.
And don't say. And if you do, I hope you bust.
Don't sleep on that. Don't sleep on the AVG Fantasy Football Podcast. We're the #1 podcast in all podcasts. Thank you. That's all I got for you. And good night.
Dude.